Hello, welcome back to Linnea Nelson Vlogs. I'm just drinking tangerine juice. I'm gonna do a video in the future about what's been going on with my health, but presently I'm drinking a lot of juice to help with some issues that I've been having. So Robert and I, for our honeymoon, went to Hawaii, and we originally weren't gonna vlog it, but we kind of played around with the idea of vlogging it, and we took a few videos, mostly photos though, and there was a lot of jet lag and dehydration, and Robert had a head injury for part of the trip, so the content is not great, but we still want to put it out there and talk about what we did for our honeymoon and just kind of the whole experience of being in Hawaii. So we got married about 20 minutes from where I grew up in Mebane. We got married in Burlington at a country club there, and we now live in Durham. So when the wedding ended around like 10 or 11, we had to drive almost an hour from Burlington all the way to Durham, where we live now. And then we hadn't packed at all because we had spent the weekend getting ready to get married and prepping everything and doing all the festivities. So we had to pack, and we hadn't packed at all, so we had to like speed pack everything. And then basically we didn't sleep at all because we didn't want to like be late. So we left at 4 o'clock from the apartment, drove to the airport, dumped our car in economy parking, got on a bus, got to the airport, and then got on a 6 a.m. flight. And we initially flew to Texas, and then we had a connection and flew the rest of the way to Honolulu, Hawaii. So when we arrived in Hawaii, it was about 1-ish Hawaii time, and we had to get off the plane and then get in this massive line to verify our vaccine cards. At this point, I was very jet lagged, I hadn't slept, I was very irritable, and so the entire time we were in line, I just complained. And it was like, we were in line for a couple hours. I just complained the entire time. When we finally got through the line, we took an Uber to our hotel, which was Hotel Renew, and ended up being a good experience there. We got some food, basically walked down the strip where there are all these restaurants and shops. We got some food, went back to the hotel, and basically just fell asleep because it had been an exhausting day. It's not weird. I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Picture of the sketchy, like, dremeled out.
Picture of the what?
The dremeled out, like, window knob.
Yes, I'll take a picture of it, but I'll end the video of this. This is our sink. This is our shower. This is our weird window.
I'm gonna pretend like this is a vlog and this is the first day.
No.
That we're just excited to be here with our couples t-shirts because we just got married a couple days ago.
I could, but I'm not gonna post this anywhere anyway.
Making fake vlog content.
I just don't remember what our hotel room looks like, okay?
Yeah.
So our first day in Hawaii, we woke up fairly early and we walked to this bakery for breakfast. It was Leonard's Bakery, and they make Portuguese donuts, which are called malasadas. And we got a bunch of those. We ate those for breakfast. They were really, really good. And our plan from there had been to walk all the way to Diamondhead. But the walk to the bakery had already felt kind of long. We had to wait in line for a while to get the donuts, and it just really irritated me, and I was jet lagged. So we started to walk to Diamondhead, and then I just sort of fell apart and didn't want to go on anymore. So we took an Uber back to the hotel. So we just sort of lazed around at the hotel for a couple of hours until I felt better. And then after that, we got up, we got some water, some big bottles of water to take with us. And we, once again, walked to Diamondhead, but this time we made it. So on our walk, we stopped for lunch at just this restaurant. We ended up getting salmon and rice, and it was really, really good. And then after we ate, we just kept walking. We got to Diamondhead, took a couple of photos of the crater, and then we walked down into the crater and up the crater wall and took a lot of photos along the way, and then basically walked back down. And when we got to the bottom, we started the pineapple drinks of our vacation. So these smoothies at Diamondhead were probably one of my most favorite drinks we had the entire trip. They may have been my favorite drink we had the entire trip. and it was literally just a pineapple smoothie, and it was so good. And they were just really, really big. They came with refills, and we had 2 or 3 of them. We just kept drinking them until we couldn't drink them anymore. And then we were really tired from walking, so we took the bus back to the Strip, so just that big stretch of like restaurants near our hotel. And we had dinner at the Lava Tube. It's this very like touristy bar, but they serve traditional food there. So we got these some kind of pork that was like wrapped in tea leaves, and it ended up being really, really, really good. And then we had rice and poi and like a little bit of salmon and like a little bit of like a pico de gao type looking thing with it as well. And that was really, really good. It was one of the best meals that we had the whole trip. It was really, really good. And then we also got drinks. I got a chi-chi, which is a pineapple coconut vodka drink, and Robert got their like signature lava strawberry something drink, and he likes that too. So on Tuesday, we had a really kind of slow start to the morning. I don't even remember what we had for breakfast, but it was just kind of a slow, lazy morning. And then we wanted to spend the afternoon hiking Mount Olomana. So we drove over to the windward side of the island, and we stopped and got sushi, and it was really, really good. Nigiri sushi, and we just ate it in our rental car because of COVID. We couldn't go in the restaurant, so we ended up eating it in like our rental car, but it was still really good. And then we drove to Mount Olomana, but by the time we got there, we just weren't really well prepared. We didn't have enough water left, and the parking was like impossible. We could not find parking. We drove around and around, and we found the trailhead, but that's all we really did. We ended up kind of giving up on that, and instead we decided to go to the Valley of the Temples. So we went to the Valley of the Temples, and there's like a big cemetery there, and it's very like multicultural, multi-faith oriented. And the temple that we actually went into was the Byodo Inn Temple. And when we first got there, we took some photos outside of it, and we also rang the bell for good luck. And then when we got inside the temple, there was a lot of Hindu and Buddhist imagery. And there's this really, really big replica of a Buddha from Japan. And so that's like taking up the most of like the inside of the temple. And then there's also like crosses and Christian imagery there as well. So it's interesting to see like the combination and just kind of multi-faiths being accepted and everything. So that was really cool. And then we basically kept walking around there, took in all the sights and everything, and then we drove to the Tantalus Lookout. Video! Bam! It's freaking great!
Are you gonna post all this in the chat where you're just narrating?
I don't know, I might. I'm gonna get some good ones. You look ridiculous. Bam! 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 It's Robert.
Also, you can check this form. Where's the bathroom? Do we have cash? Like, you should have vlogged that. That would have made great Linnea government office vlog content.
We got the marriage license, it was fine.
Yeah, I know, but that would make great vlog content.
Well, maybe I'm just done vlogging. Or maybe I'll post this on YouTube and be like, went to Hawaii with Robert.
You could send the link to the guy who's to say, but you're trying to say things.
I don't know. What should I say?
What's up, Tube Gang? This is Robert vlogging in from the Honolulu HNL.
That's too much for me.
Is that not how you...
I'm like that sometimes.
Yeah, but you don't have, like, a brand. You know, it's not like your Tube Gang or, like, Logan Paul and the Mavericks. No, you're just...
Just me.
No.
So once we got to the Tantalus Lookout, basically you get there, you park, and then you hike up a ways to the lookout, and you just kind of walk out onto this big space. And you can see the whole island. You can see Waikiki and like the Strip. You can see Diamondhead where we hiked. You can see the airport. You can see Pearl Harbor. You can basically just see everything, this whole big expanse. And we took some photos up there, but I think it's very hard to portray the view in a photo at all. Like, it was just epic, and it kind of was one of those things that just, when you experience it, it's just like, really exciting. So we did that, and then we went from the lookout to do these loop trails around the lookout, and we saw a bunch of banyan trees, and it was a little bit muddy, but we had fun, and we got a little bit lost, but it was really fun. We hiked around, tried to follow the map, looked at a bunch of trees, and eventually we found our way back to our car right before it started raining, so that was really excellent. And then we just drove back to the hotel, and we had a really chill night. I think we got like pizza for dinner. Like, it was just super chill night after all that activity. So Wednesday was a really big day for us. Like, Wednesday we probably did 3 days worth of stuff in one day, honestly, and it was awesome. It was a day I was feeling really good, and we were able to do a lot. So we started off Wednesday by getting up early, and we got our rental car out of the garage, which is a whole thing because the parking at our hotel was so bad, and like you had to like get like the valet to like move cars out of the way so you could get out because no one was really in parking spaces. It was crazy. So once we finally got our car out of the garage, we went and started driving to the North Shore. And when we got there, we stopped for breakfast at this place called Bonsai Bowls. So this place, Bonsai Bowls, was the best place to get an acai bowl that I've ever been to, and I've heard a lot about it from other YouTube videos and stuff, so Robert really wanted to take me there. And it definitely lived up to the hype. It was so good. Like, it was just like so much fresh fruit in one bowl, like so good. I still think about that acai bowl sometimes. And Robert got one too, but since he doesn't like fruit at all, he wasn't very thrilled about it, but he ate it to be a good sport and to be nice to me, so that was some good husbanding of him. So after the bonsai bowl, we just walked around this town, Hala Iva, and we went to this marketplace, and we looked at a bunch of different galleries, and we saw some art from this artist named Wyland, and we also saw a lot of other art from artists whose name I don't remember at this point. But it was really fun to just walk around the galleries, ask questions about the pieces, and then we also went into a crystal shop that had all these different types of crystals. And I really like rocks and minerals, so I was so excited about this shop. Robert didn't expect it. He's like, I didn't know you're that into rocks and minerals. I was like, yes, I love rocks and minerals. So we were in there for a long time doing that. So after we had hung out in Haleiwa for a while, we went to the Waimea Falls, and we'd also heard a lot about these falls, heard it was somewhere you should definitely go. And the falls are, we were surprised when we first got there how high the admissions price was. We were like, why are we paying this much to see a waterfall? But then when we actually went into the place, we realized that it was this really huge garden, like a garden that we were there for a couple hours and we couldn't even see all of it. Like, there was just so much, and there were so many trails, and it was so well landscaped, and we realized, oh, this is why the admission fee is so high, because it's all of this, and there's a waterfall too, but it's at the end of it, really. So the first thing we did was we went to their really big orchid area. They do all these custom orchids, and they breed them, and they're amazing and really unique, unlike any other orchids I've ever seen. And people really slept on that. No one was over there, so we were the only ones looking at the orchids, and it was this whole area you could walk around. There were so many different types of orchids, and we took so many pictures with the orchids, smelling them, standing with them, because they were so gorgeous and we hadn't seen anything like it. And we were just surprised that no one else was into it. We were like, well, we're just gonna enjoy this by ourselves, this nice quiet area. And I'm glad we did that because the rest of the hike was pretty crowded. There was a lot of people that were going towards the waterfall and away from the waterfall, so it did get pretty crowded once we got away from the quiet little orchid garden. So we walked around, hiked a lot, and on the way to the waterfall, we were able to walk past some exhibits of some Hawaiian history, so that was really cool. We talked to this one woman for a long time about traditional Hawaiian fabric making and how they do that with parts of this plant, and how they pound it. It takes a long time, and so that was, from someone that's interested in fashion and textiles, that was really interesting to hear about as well. So we did all that, and then we finally got to the waterfall, and it was the most awful, like, part of the whole thing, because there was, like, huge crowds around it, and it was basically kind of, like, very much a tourist trap, so you had to pay for, like, a life jacket, and, like, everyone had to be in a life jacket, and it was just, like, there was so much stuff there, and, like, it was just, like, you had to pay for a locker if you wanted a locker, and it was just, like, crazy. So we did not swim. It was so crowded, and we have some photos of how crowded it was and just how kind of unpleasant the whole thing was, and we were like, yeah, we're not gonna get into this. We're just gonna keep enjoying our hike, leave the waterfall. We saw it, you know, like, we came, we saw, but it wasn't, like, the best part of the hike. It was probably the worst part of the hike, honestly. Then we went back and went on to other activities. Alright, so after the falls, Robert really wanted to go snorkeling, and we had rented this snorkeling gear from our hotel. So we took our snorkeling gear and we kept driving around to find a good beach to snorkel at, and it took a fair bit of driving to find this place. Like, we kept driving around being like, can we snorkel there? And, like, some places were really crowded and we couldn't find parking. And we finally did find parking at Sharks Cove, which is where we'd heard was a good snorkeling spot anyway. And we actually have no photos of this because I left my phone in the car because I didn't want it to get, like, sandy or wet, or because we just basically, like, left our stuff in the sand and then went to the water. So, like, there was, like, nowhere to put any of our stuff. And so I just left it in the car, but it was very scenic, very pretty, and Robert snorkeled. I didn't snorkel, because I just felt like we were having a whole day, you know, and we had, like, a long ride back in the car to the hotel, and I didn't want to be, like, wet in my swimsuit and, like, riding in the car all the way back to the hotel. But Robert had a very good time snorkeling. He saw, like, a whole bunch of sea turtles, and he was just, like, super excited about it. He had an awesome time. He was snorkeling for, like, almost an hour. And I just kind of watched him and hung out in the sun and got a little sunburn, but it was definitely worth it. So the last thing we did on the North Shore that I loved and that Robert loved, it was just really awesome, was we went to this shrimp truck called Giovanni's Shrimp Truck, and it's in this area with a lot of other food trucks and food vendors. So if you don't want shrimp, you can eat whatever else you want to eat there. They have, like, dessert trucks and other kinds of food, but the shrimp truck was definitely the main thing people were lining up for. And we had heard the shrimp was awesome, but it was just so awesome. Like, we both got these huge plates of, like, shrimp scampi and rice, and I think I pounded mine in, like, 10 minutes. Like, I was just, like, shoveling it in my mouth. Like, I was just, like, destroying it. And Robert ate his a lot slower than I, so when I was done, I was just, like, staring at his plate. And we would have gotten more, but we had to pay in cash, and we just didn't have enough cash to get, like, another plate of shrimp. Otherwise, we definitely would have, because I could have definitely pounded another whole plate of shrimp. And then after everything we did on Wednesday, which was a lot, we drove back to the hotel. And it was a long drive because we were going back around the island. So it definitely took us over an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but it was such a scenic drive, and we were, like, tired. So it was a really good, like, way to decompress from the whole day. Do a video. You know what, Robert? I'll do a video. I'll video you and your ridiculous butt. I think I actually got some decent photos, actually.
Did you have, like, rapid, like, sports mode on?
I think you just took some decent ones. I'll show you.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll do a video. Maybe we'll put it in the tube or something. Just driving through Hawaii with this silly guy.
God, you're doing that thing.
I'm sorry!
You always sing when you narrate your videos.
I don't always sing.
It's like the DMV videos.
Did I sing at the DMV?
Yes.
Oh
You
no.
haven't put a caption. I don't know why I'm sitting here. You could have clipped it.
It's just so epic. I love it. It just goes on forever. Your fault. I don't know how you did it, but it's your fault. Because you look at all those skin-related things.
Facebook's probably listening and here's talking about skin.
Facebook is listening to us. I listened to a podcast about that once, and they kind of debunked it a little bit. Babe, this takes me back to like my vlogging days. We're opening a dangerous like door here.
It's probably very narrow.
Oh, I thought you meant like the...
I'm talking like this one.
Oh, this. I mean, you could probably die doing that. I don't want to die.
Doing any of these. I mean, they're all very steep.
Yeah. So we're driving back from the North Shore. And it's very scenic on the highway. And the last thing that we did on Wednesday, which was also super wild and fun, is we went back to the Strip, and we found this bar. I don't remember the name of the bar. I'm not really sure that the name of the bar, it's like, it was the Pineapple something, I feel like. I don't remember. Like, we went there twice in the trip too, but I just don't remember the name. I'll try to figure it out by the time we went to the bar. But we got like a bunch of island drinks, and they had this band there that was playing live, and it was definitely very touristy, but it was just like super, super, super fun. It was just like so fun. There was so we started like drinking. Robert was having just like these kind of random drinks, and I was having chi-chis. I was just obsessed with chi-chis the entire time we were there. I think I drank so many chi-chis. I was like, if it has fresh pineapple in it, I'm drinking it. And I just kept drinking them. So I was drinking chi-chis, and Robert was drinking whatever he was drinking, and because we had walked there, like we were just gonna walk back to our hotel, so it didn't really matter what we did. And so we just started dancing and singing to all the music, and it was just so, so, so fun. And then there ended up being a tsunami warning while we were there. So then all of a sudden, like, it kind of took this tone of like, oh my gosh, it's like the end of the world, and like, who knows if we're gonna have a tsunami take us out. And so we were just like getting really wild because we were like, could be our last moment, like, let's make it count. So we did that. That was really, really wild. And then, like, when that was all over, we went back to the hotel and fell asleep. Okay, so Thursday was one of the best days of the trip. It was maybe the best day of the trip because we had the biggest adventure that day. And it took up pretty much the whole day. The whole day was centered around it, and I'm gonna talk about that. So we wanted to hike the first peak of Mount Olomana. We'd been researching it since we booked our flight. We've been watching videos of other people hiking it. We just really wanted to do this hike. We knew it was gonna be hard. It's not even like a sanctioned hike. It's like the entrance to it has a sign, but it's like inside this like super bougie like golf course. And the parking is like really difficult because you can't park on the golf course or they will tow your car. So you have to park like away from it, like kind of on the side of the road near some people's houses where like people just park to hike this hike. And then get there early so you can actually get a parking space there and then walk down to the hike. So that was kind of what we centered our whole day around. We got up really early and we drove there. And then when we got close to it, we stopped for breakfast at this place called Konos. And we ended up kind of becoming obsessed with Konos, honestly, after this, because it was just so good. I got a bagel with like all this really good stuff, like bagel sandwich like, with really good stuff inside of it. And Robert got a breakfast burrito, and it was really, really good. And then I've been trying to gain weight, so we also got a milkshake, and I was like drinking the milkshake with my bagel, but it was a little too much because I didn't finish the milkshake, but I tried. So we did that, and then basically, like around 11-ish, we probably started the hike after we parked and walked all the way there with our like big thing of water. We probably should have brought more water. We did not bring enough water. Our water, we had like a 1.5 liter bottle of water. We drank all of it on the way up. So on the way down, we had no water left. And I do wish we had had more water because we were really, really dehydrated by the end of the hike. And especially Robert, because he was like sweating a lot, and it was just like we should have brought more water. So that was a regret that we have, but it was still a good hike. So the hike is just so varied and so dynamic and just so scenic. Like, it is completely worth doing. It's amazing. So it's very like jungly when you first start out, and there's like a red clay section where you go through like ironwood trees, like blowing in the wind. And it just made me feel like Narnia-y for a second there. It was like kind of weird. I just like loved it. And then there's a lot of scrambles. So there's a lot of parts where you're like climbing up rocks and like using ropes, and like it gets really intense really fast, but there's so much elevation. So there's so many times. So we are like halfway up.
More than halfway.
More than halfway up. What is this called? The peaks?
Mount Olomana, 3 peaks. We're on the first peak.
And it's quite awesome. We are amazed.
Tallest peak.
All right, the tallest peak. There's so many times where Robert and I are grabbing ropes and like climbing up, and it was just so cool and intense and challenging. Like, it was a really, really fun experience. And when we got to the top, we actually did take a good amount of footage because we wanted to show what it was like up there and like how scary it was to be at the very top of this like very sharp peak. And so we do have some footage, and I'm gonna insert that here, basically. Here we are.
There's 2 more peaks after this too, and they get more dangerous.
I don't want to see more dangerous. I do not. This is enough danger forever. So Robert and I are on the side of a mountain. I don't know where Robert, he's behind me.
No,
So Robert and I are on a literal mountain ridge here.
About an 1,800 foot drop.
And there's sort of imminent death on either side of us. There's the ridge we just walked up, and we were debating hiking up that. And
it's not really so much a hike as a climb with a tiny like bungee cord.
And we decided that we do not want to die today.
I thought I could bypass it, and I found myself on like a 4-inch ledge.
Yeah, so we don't want to die today. Like, that is the drop. I feel like it's not coming through in video, but oh shit. Yeah, that's behind me. Okay. Yeah. Woo! About to go down. All right, so we down hiked a little bit, and this view is just epic.
There are the 2nd and 3rd peaks.
Yes, that people do hike, but it's really dangerous.
Yeah, I can see why the 3rd peak is just...
Yeah, I would be terrified. And this is just like all the valley we're in, or the mountain we're on. There's my love, Robert. Oh. And that's all behind us.
You're standing on...
And then we also have quite a few pictures of being up there, and also some pictures of us together up there, because we ran into some other people at the top of the hike. There was one guy there who was waiting for his friend who was hiking the more dangerous 2nd peak, which is like, there's a photo of it, but it's like further down and it's more dangerous. So he wasn't hiking it, he was just chilling, waiting for his friend, and he was kind enough to like take photos of us together on the top of the peak. And then on the way down, it was definitely more challenging than on the way up. Like, I didn't expect how hard it was gonna be climbing down the like rock mountain ridges.
Yes.
So we just down climbed that, which is even higher than what you can see here.
It's a good 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, we're proud of ourselves. And now we're gonna go down. Especially like the last part that we had to hike to get up. It's like this just jutting like thing of rock that's like 15 feet high that like you can only use ropes to get up, and like getting down that was super scary. And on the way down on the hike, Robert actually had a near-death experience. So on the way down, like he was going down, so I was going down a rock like ridge, I was coming down, and I really wanted some photos of myself coming down. So Robert was trying to take photos of me with like my camera, and he was backing up to take photos, and he like slipped on this patch of like rock that wasn't entirely steady. Like he thought it was like hard solid rock, but it wasn't. It was like gravel. And so he slipped on it and he just started sliding down, and he would have slid down like this huge rocky like drop, but a tree, like a tree limb or stump, stopped him. So he was saved by that, and it was really, really scary. And there was another person there with us who just happened. We didn't see a lot of people on this hike, but we did pass this one person, and this one person on the way down, and during this part, and he like helped Robert up, and I was just so glad that he was there as well. And yeah, after that, Robert was pretty beat up. Like there are photos of it that we have, but like he had like scrapes all over his arms and his legs, and like he was pretty beat up by the end of the hike for sure. And then as we continued on downwards, like I took a lot of photos of the way down. And then we ended up on our way down, the two guys that we'd seen at the very top and the one that had even hiked the second peak, like they passed us on the way down. Because like they were just so much more fast than us. Like they were very efficient. So kudos to them. And then when we got to the very like bottom end of the hike, we were just so exhausted and so tired and so dehydrated, especially Robert. And I was really worried about him because he had hit his head in his fall. So I was worried that he could have had a concussion or just anything, and he was really disoriented from the dehydration. So we were like really scared at that point. We even like called Robert's dad, who works in the medical field, and just asked him questions about Robert and if we thought he should have a concussion, and just like stressing about it. So as soon as we were done with the hike, we like walked back to our car as fast as we could, and then we drove to a gas station. We were hoping that they would have like some first aid supplies, but they really just had like they didn't really have anything that was worth buying. But they did have energy drinks and water. So we just got like water. Robert wanted an energy drink. I ended up getting a kombucha there as well. And we just got a bunch of like liquids to drink on the drive back. And as we were driving back, as Robert was getting rehydrated, he started to feel a lot better. And we were able to kind of just talk and like laugh about it a little bit and just really enjoy the drive back from Mount Olomana, which wasn't that far from our hotel, but it was like a good like maybe 40-minute drive back. But then, like, we still had to deal with the fact that, like, he was all scraped up and cut up and all that. So we ended up, before we got to the hotel, we went to Safeway. And I literally, like, was just so worried about him. I ran into the Safeway, and I was, like, panicked, like, looking for, like, meds and, like, sanitizer and, like, Band-Aids. I bought so many Band-Aids. Like, I was like, I have to take care of this. I have to, like, fix that, make sure my husband's okay. So I was, like, I got, like, so many sanitizers and, like, Neosporin and like pain meds. I got like everything, and I'm like sitting in the checkout, like talking to her, like my husband has fallen, he has scraped, he has had a fall. Like I was like going on about it, and the cashier just like did not care at all. Like she didn't care at all. She was just like, okay, weirdo, like have a nice day. I like ran out to the car to like get Robert. When we got back home, like we took a really, really long shower. And I like helped like clean all his wounds and get him patched up and like Neosporined up and like get him to lie down and drink more water and like make sure that he was okay, because I was like really, really worried about him. Alright, so Friday ended up being a pretty chill day. We still did a lot and we had a lot of fun, but it was chill definitely compared to Thursday because we were very sore and very tired, and Robert was still all scraped up from his fall. So we had to like take it slowly. On Friday morning we went to Konos again. Basically after Thursday we were just obsessed with Konos. So we went to Konos again, and we got I got a lox bagel, which I did not like. I just really kind of realized, even though I like salmon, I don't really like salmon first thing in the morning. It's just not great for me. But Robert got the breakfast burrito again, and he likes that a lot. And then after that, we drove to the Bishop Museum, and we spent 3 hours there. We just walked around the whole museum. We like looked at everything we could, read everything we could. And it's just like this massive history museum, just so much information about Polynesian history there. And it's just like, there's just so much to read and learn about like all the islands and the difference between the islands and the cultures on the islands and just the history and just basically everything. So we spent a lot of time just taking that in and thinking about it. And then after we got to like the history kind of portion, we went to this art exhibit they had there as well. And it was all really modern art. They actually had a whole exhibit on graffiti, which was super, super fun to walk through, because it looks like a city that's just covered in graffiti. And we even sent a couple of pictures to like some of our family and make them think we were just like in this like crazy looking city, but we were actually in the museum. And then we also saw a lot of really, really cool, unique art pieces, including like all of these paintings that were all done by artists during the pandemic. So they were all done in like 2021, and they were just like 50 or 100, probably more than that, like so many paintings. And they were all so different and such different responses to the pandemic, and so it was really interesting to see that as well. So that was really, really fun and just cool to go through. And then after the museum, we went to get lunch, and we drove to Chinatown to get lunch. And the reason why we did that is we wanted to go to a particular poke restaurant, and it was the best poke either of us has ever had. That was like the one thing we wanted to make sure that we did before we left Hawaii, was like get some poke actually in Hawaii. And it was at this place called Maguro Brothers, and it is in a fish market. So like, well, it's in a fish market. So like the market is, there's other stuff there besides fish, like there's like other types of meat and vegetables and fruit, and it's just like this huge market. There's so much going on, like even walking in I was like kind of overwhelmed, but I had Robert with me, so I was okay. And we just sat down and we ordered poke, and it's really simple. Like it's so different from the poke that you get here where there's like a million toppings on it, because like the fish is so good and so sweet and so fresh, like you don't need all those toppings. Like Robert got his super, super simple. It was just the tuna with like some onion and scallion and like a little bit of soy sauce. His was like super simple. I love like spicy mayo, so I got mine. It was basically just the tuna just tossed in this like spicy kind of mayo-y sauce, and it was super, super good. And it was just on white rice, and that was it. And we have pictures of it, but it was so, so good. After we ate the poke, we went to the Pearl Harbor Monument and Museum. So we couldn't actually go as far into it as we wanted to because of the pandemic. So you would have had to buy tickets really far in advance, and we just weren't able to do that. So we were able to walk through the Pearl Harbor Museum, which is like, it's like sort of outside, sort of inside, and there's all these different sections you can walk through, and there's a lot about the history of the war and the history of what happened at Pearl Harbor and how it affected people. And we read through all of that because we're sort of really, really like nerdy when it comes to museums. Like both of us just want to like read everything and like take everything in. So we walked around all of that and then like looked at the Pearl Harbor Monument. We couldn't like go onto the Pearl Harbor Monument because like it's like out in the water a bit, and we didn't have tickets or anything. So the last thing we did on Friday was we had a really, really good meal, and it was at this really, really nice restaurant. So we hadn't really intended to have like a really nice fancy meal on Friday, but honestly we hadn't really done it yet on the honeymoon. We'd eaten a lot of like street food, which was really, really good, and just been just like some hole in the wall places, that we hadn't really been to like a really nice restaurant yet on our trip. So we kind of ended up at this place on accident though, because one of the really big problems that we did have when we were in Hawaii was there were so many people there while we were there, because the vaccine passport had just started. So there were just like throngs of people everywhere. Not as much like on the North Shore or like the places that we went that were like away from the Strip. But when we like got back to the Strip that was near a hotel, it was just so many people. And so if you went to the Strip and tried to get dinner at night, there would often be these like huge lines and like waits of like up to an hour to get food. It's actually how we ended up at the Lava Tube on Monday night. Was there wasn't a line there, like there was no one there, and they had the really good traditional food and they had drinks, and we ended up really enjoying it. But that's kind of also how we ended up at this place. There was no line for it, and the menu looked good, and we were just like, let's try it. And it was Morimoto's Asia restaurant in Hawaii. And one of my coworkers who used to live in Hawaii, when I came back from my trip, she told me that she lived on this island, and she told me that was her favorite restaurant in the whole area, like her favorite nice restaurant. So we picked well. We ended up accidentally at an awesome place. Our waiter was amazing. He was just so personable and nice, and the food was just so good. Like, we didn't even order anything like super fancy at all. Like, we got pork lo mein and black pepper chicken, but it was like the most perfect pork lo mein, and like black pepper chicken that just like had these delicate like peppers and onions, and just like the sauce like melted in your mouth, and it was just like beautiful and gorgeous. Like, it was just so good. Like, I was just like losing my mind over how good it was. And like the one like not as fun part of it is like, so there was this like couple that was next to us, and they were just like so obnoxious. Like, they'd been married for longer than us, and they were just like so obnoxious. They thought that they were like the coolest people ever. They're like ordering like all this fancy stuff off the menu. And so Robert and I were like, you know what? We're gonna order the fanciest dessert and just like be cooler than them. So we asked our waiter for like the dessert menu, and he was like, okay, the best dessert is this thing called the sphere. And it's basically like this chocolate shell that like they light on fire, and like it's full of like mousse and other bits of chocolate, and it just like sounded really amazing, like chocolate and mousse and a lighting on fire part. It sounded awesome. So Robert was like when the waiter left and then came back, Robert was like, we will have the sphere. And then they brought it to us, and like they lit it on fire at the table, and it was just like, we watched like the sphere melt like into this like the mousse, and it was just so good. And we also got some like sorbet to go with it as well, just on the side because I wanted some sorbet. But it was awesome, and we felt so proud of ourselves just like for a moment compared to that other couple. It's kind of silly of us, but it was also a really good dessert, so it was definitely worth it. Like, I'm glad we got that dessert. It was so good. And then we just walked back to the hotel, and we fell asleep. So the last day of the honeymoon before we traveled back on Sunday, we really didn't do that much. Robert had some other stuff that he wanted to do. There were some other places that he wanted to snorkel and kind of go to other parts of the island, and I just really wasn't up for it. Just like after the whole week and having such busy days, I was just exhausted. Like, I just wanted to just kind of chill and just have a day where we didn't have any plans or do anything in particular. We did go for lunch to this udon restaurant, this udon noodle restaurant where we had gone Monday. And we just got like these big bowls of udon noodles, and they make these fried sweet potato like pieces that are also really good. So I ate a whole bunch of those and a whole bunch of noodles, and just like ate a lot of food for lunch. And then I just felt really full and really sick and like exhausted, and I just like, my stomach hurt really bad. So we walked back to the hotel, and I just laid down and like napped because my stomach hurt. We had rented a car through Turo. That ended up being a really good experience. The car was super clean. The guy was super chill. We didn't get charged for any damage. We didn't damage it, but like, it was just so quick and easy. Like, we had a really good experience on Turo. And then later that evening, like, we were just kind of walking the strip at night. I don't remember where we had dinner, honestly. I have like no clue where we had dinner Saturday. I don't remember it at all. But as we like walked the strip and just talked, like, we found that bar again. And I looked at the name of it. It was the Coconut Bar, and they had live music again, and they had drinks and a big crowd. And so we ended up getting our last island drinks of the vacation that night. We got the real pina colada. So like, it's this huge drink, and it comes in a pineapple, and there's so much rum in it. And we just drank that together, got a little bit drunk together, listened to this band again, just kind of, I didn't have the same vibes as Wednesday when it was like the end of the world kind of thing, but it was still fun. And then we just went to bed early. Like, Saturday was just such a chill day. So Sunday, obviously, we went back home. So Sunday was also a chill day, but we ended up doing a lot more because we were traveling. So we wanted to have one last meal at Konos, the place that we had become obsessed with for breakfast. And so I got, I think, a bagel sandwich again. Robert got the burrito again, I think. And then I got like a smoothie as well. And we just like ate a lot of food there. We're just really good. And then we packed up our hotel room, packed up all of our stuff, threw away all our trash, all that stuff. And then once we had packed up the hotel room and like checked out, I think actually we hadn't checked out yet, but we had like packed all our stuff up and like gotten ready. We went to like walk the strip one last time, and I really wanted a sweatshirt because I remembered how cold the plane ride was there, and just like how hard it was to sleep when I just was feeling cold and there was like nothing like warm around me. So we went to go look for a sweatshirt for me. And we looked in like so many stores, and so many of them were like way overpriced, and it's like didn't make sense to buy it. And we finally found this like ugly gray one that said Hawaii on it, but that was like big and warm, and we bought that for like, I don't know, $20 or $30, which was still expensive for a sweatshirt, but not nearly as bad as some of the other prices. And then we bought that, checked out of our hotel room, and then we were flying Hawaiian on the way back. We had intended to fly Hawaiian both the way there and the way back. But we had like a kind of mishap like the week before we left with our flights being canceled. So we ended up having to like buy new tickets on American and like cancel the Hawaiian tickets and get a refund, and it was a whole mess. So like we flew there on American, and then we flew back on Hawaiian. And flying on Hawaiian was just so much better. Like the seats were bigger and comfier, the food and the snacks were so much better, and they gave us like really nice little meals. Like, cause the flight was so long. It was like it's the longest like flight within a single country you can take. It was all the way from Hawaii to Boston, whereas previously we had like done 2 like medium length flights. This was like one really long flight, and we were flying all the way to Boston. So like they brought us like dinner, and we had breakfast and like snacks in between, and it's still airplane food, but it was just like very, very edible. And like there were things that were like fairly tasty. And like I think for our like dinner or whatever, we had like this pasta thing that was like very like cupo noodles-esque, but there was like super good like coleslaw with it, and like an interesting dessert, and it was just, and then for breakfast like we got like these like Hawaiian muffins, and it was just a much better experience flying on Hawaiian than it was American, and I loved it like so much more. So flew back on Hawaiian, and then when we got to Boston, we had a really, really tight connection. So we had to like just basically run from one terminal like to the other one, like booked it. I think I had time to like go to the bathroom super quickly between like getting off one flight and on the other, but like it was like super fast. Like we got to our flight like as it was basically boarding. Like we like got there right in time. Got back to RDU, took the bus to get our car, got in our car, and we actually ended up doing a lot on Sunday. We like went to like see my parents, and we just did a lot of various like little things. But when we initially got back, the first thing we did was go get lunch at our favorite restaurant in town that's like really near our apartment, called Alpaca. And so we just ate at Alpaca, and that's where I'm gonna end this video. Also, this was a really, really, really fun trip for us, and it was my first like really big trip since I was like in high school. So it was just really, really fun, and I'm glad that we did it. And I really thank you if you've watched all the way through. Thank you for watching, and we'll get another video out to you soon.